Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for coming out so early. I want to start by congratulating Guam for its great achievement of having a mandate of 100% renewable energy by 2045. Thank you. That was a lot of hard work on the part of Dr. Shelton and his sister. Sorry, Senator. Yeah, sorry. A little bit about myself. My name is Henk Rogers. You know that already. If you go back far enough, I majored in computer science at the University of Hawaii and minored in Dungeons and Dragons. Ooh, we got a fist pump in the distance there. So I wrote the first role-playing game in Japan, started a publishing company, started traveling around the world looking for games to bring to Japan, and one of those games that I found was a little game called Tetris. How many of you play Tetris? That is an old one, but it's also a new one. So, so I made my money selling a company that had the rights to Tetris for mobile phones in 2005. And a month later, I found myself in the back of an ambulance on the way to hospital with 100% blockage of the widowmaker. The widowmaker is the largest artery in your heart. When they put me in the ambulance, they said, we're only going to take you in for observation. There's nothing really wrong with you. We're not even going to turn on the siren. Halfway to the hospital, the siren went on. So I knew something really bad happened right there. And I'm thinking to myself, first I said, you've got to be kidding me. I haven't spent any of the money yet. I just sold my company. But the second thing I said to myself was, no, I'm not going. I still have stuff to do. And obviously, I survived. I have 2 stents. It wasn't a big deal. I left 4 days later from the hospital with 2 Band-Aids. If I'd have been on another island like the Big Island that day, I would have died. I mean, it really requires the miracles of modern science for you to be able to survive something like that. So what did I mean by stuff? I got to thinking, and I kind of worked it out from the back of the end of my life. What is it that's going to upset me if I didn't do something about it during my lifetime? Like, where will I have wasted my opportunity? And well, first of all, I'd made enough money so my wife didn't need me anymore, and my kids went through university, so they didn't need me anymore. So I was kind of useless at this point. And I was thinking, what do I mean by stuff? And I found my missions in life. That's what I set about, and I found my missions in life. And the first one came to me in the back of the newspaper. This is advertised. Hawaii newspaper, by the way. And it said, oh, by the way, we're going to kill all the coral in the world by the end of the century. And I'm going, you idiots. Do you have any idea what that means? I mean, what's the problem? The problem is ocean acidification, which basically dissolves coral quicker than coral can grow coral. Well, guess what else needs those little shells? It's plankton. So we're talking about completely breaking the whole ecosystem in the ocean by the end of the century. What's causing ocean acidification? It's carbon dioxide. What's causing carbon dioxide? We are. So we are collectively responsible for ending coral by the end of the century. So I said, nope, we're not going to do that. My first mission is to end the use of carbon-based fuel. And because I live in Hawaii, I decided that Hawaii should be the first place we do this, because before I ask other people to clean their room, I feel I have to clean my room, and Hawaii's my room. So I formed the Blue Planet Foundation to end the use of carbon-based fuel in Hawaii. And how were we going to go about doing this? Frankly speaking, I'm a game designer, maybe I'm an entrepreneur. I had no idea, or we had no idea how we were going to do this. So we started trying one thing after another thing. First, we were going to have a concert, which was going to be a disaster. Fortunately, Al Gore did it for us, and so we didn't have to do it. The nice thing about a concert is everybody goes, yeah, kumbaya, but after everybody goes home and it's over and they forget. So we gathered up all of our board of advisors, and we spent 2 days thinking, like, what is it that we should do as a foundation? And we decided to become an action-oriented foundation to actually make the change happen that we're looking to see in Hawaii. So What is it that we're trying to do? 100% renewable energy. How did we go about doing it? Well, first we tried legislation because our leader that we brought in from the Sierra Club says legislation is the way to go. And we tried pushing legislation, but the problem is legislators don't move unless you get the people behind them. So then we set about getting the people, and we did a whole bunch of things. One of the things that we did is we had elementary school children go door to door and exchange 300,000 light bulbs, thereby having a conversation between a child and an adult about, first of all, about how the new light bulb is going to save them money, and also how it's going to help stop climate change. We had we had junior high school students draw on sidewalks where high tide would be in a 1 meter rise in sea level. And we got that on television. So everybody knew Waikiki was going to be underwater at the end of the century because of sea level rise. And then we got high school students to help people on the outer islands, yes, we have outer islands, get energy saver refrigerators. Because normally, somebody like that needs to go to another island, buy the refrigerator, have it shipped. By the time that whole transaction happened, that's a lot of money. So we brought container loads of refrigerators to the outer islands and sold them at cost. And then the legislators followed. And during this entire time while we're trying to get this legislation passed, the utility was on the other side of it. In other words, they were saying, can't be done, we can't do this, and so on and so forth. But finally, we managed to get, in 2015, this is like 7, maybe 8 years after we started the foundation, we managed to get Hawaii to be the first state in the country to have a mandate of 100% renewable energy by the end of 2045. And guess what happened? 6 months later, the utility publicly announced that, in fact, they had looked at it and they said they could do it by 2040, which is, by the way, the original date that we were fighting for. We wanted 2040. The politicians were ready to give us 2050, and we settled for 2045. My son pointed out that 2045 is the perfect date because it's the 100th anniversary of the United Nations. And so now the new thinking is we should get the whole world to go 100% by 2045. Now, why 100% instead of 1.5 degrees or 2 degrees? The problem is that people in the world don't understand what it means, 1.5 degrees or 2 degrees. You know, you're living somewhere and you think, well, if my temperature went up by 2 degrees every day, I wouldn't need a sweater. It's not really a thing that people can understand why it's so urgent. And what we're really doing is we're destabilizing the climate. It's not so much about that 1.5, or what's it causing is the problem. Hurricanes, tornadoes, floods, droughts. These are all the things that are going to change the way we live, because the places where we grow food are no longer going to be able to grow food because there won't be any water, or there'll be too much water. So destabilizing the climate is the real issue. So we got that, the mandate passed, and more recently, we passed another law which changes the business model of the utility, so they make more money the quicker they switch to renewables. Guess who's our best friend now? And now that the utility is on our side, and the people are on our side, and the politicians are on our side, everybody's rowing in the same direction. And guess what that means? That means that we're going to get there. We're going to get there in record time, because everyone is rowing in the same direction. So I really believe that the thing that we accomplished in Hawaii is to change everyone's mind from it's impossible to, of course we're going to do this. I remember being on a panel, and I said, we're going to go 100% renewable by 2045. And there was a researcher from the university, which is, by the way, my university, and he says, I study this for a living. There's no way you can go 100% by 2045. I was kind of shocked, because he's an expert. So I grabbed the mic and I said, well, I'm not as smart as this guy, so we're going to do it anyway. And we are. So fast forward, even if we're completely successful in Hawaii to achieve 100% by 2045, that isn't going to make a dent in the real problem, because it's a worldwide problem. We were good and lucky enough that 12 other states in the country copied our legislation. And thank you very much, Guam. Can I have another hand for Guam? So I said to myself, you know, it's great that we're moving across the US and into the US territories, but if you add up all the people in the US and the US territories, that's 5, maybe 6% of the people in the world. And guess what? The rest of the people have the right to live just like us. We, by the way, use 25% of all of the energy in the world. So if the rest of the world becomes like us, we're talking about a massive increase in the amount of energy used by the world. So two things have to happen. We have to reduce our energy use, and we have to switch to renewable energy. So to fix the rest of the world, I started the Blue Planet Alliance. The word alliance basically means that everybody has to join together, just like everybody joined together in World War II to stop Nazism. This is an existential threat. And back then, if you think about it, we went to Europe and we went to the Pacific Theater and we fought and died for this. And this is even worse of an existential threat than that was. And yet people are still kind of going about their daily lives. Anyway, the Blue Planet Alliance is an alliance of all the NGOs and all the people and all the companies and all the countries in the world. Most of them don't realize that they're part of this alliance yet, but they will. The awareness is getting more and more and more. And because we want to go to the rest of the world, I moved to New York. And so the Blue Planet Alliance is based in New York. Click, click, click. There you go. Why New York? New York is because that's where all the countries in the world get together. So our office is right across from the United Nations. The United Nations has this thing called the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. But we believe that that is not enough. Because if we become sustainable right now, we are still going, it's like being sustainable while we're floating towards the edge of a cliff on a boat. It's a waterfall. We're still moving. What we have to do is we have to stop the water from flowing. So the next 15 years, if I have my way, there will be the regenerative development goals, where we put back everything that we've taken from nature, everything that we've broken, and then we can be sustainable, 2045. So what does the Alliance do? Well, first of all, we're entering into MOUs, Memoranda of Understanding, with every other NGO in the world. The problem with an NGO is that they have members, and the way they communicate with their members is it's kind of like a silo. And they send emails down this silo hoping that their members do something. The problem is they have no way of knowing whether they actually do something or not, and they don't reach outside their silo. So if one NGO has a great idea, they can only activate their members. That has to end. We have to be working together, because guess what? The oil companies are working together. There's a thing called OPEC. They all work together. And they control our economies. I mean, just look at what's going on in the world right now. They control pretty much everything that's going on. All of our problems come from rising oil prices. So the memorandum says that we agree to work together to create a world in which humanity and nature live in harmony. It's the one thing that after talking to, dozens and dozens of NGOs, it's the one thing that they can all agree to. So that's all we're asking. And basically, we want people to get on the right mindset. The second thing that we're doing is we're doing the mandates, just like we did the mandate in Hawaii and in Guam. We are doing mandates for other countries. And the first countries that we're going to go after are island countries. Because, why? They're the most like us. They're the most like Hawaii, they're most like Guam. And we bring to them a formula for success. How did we do this in Hawaii? Let's do this on your island. So from Guam, tonight in fact, we're flying to Palau. Palau is our next country, or our first country outside the United States. Next month is the Dominican Republic, and later this year we'll be doing 10 other island countries. Once that ball is, and the reason I start with all island countries, because they're small, and they have the biggest problem compared to other countries. And I'd like to have the inertia of the small islands saying, yes, we're doing this. So that's the second thing. The third thing that we're doing, and this comes, when I think about it, the United Nations, with all of their member countries and so on, in their moment of glory, they came up with the Paris Agreement. The problem is anyone actually on track for the Paris Agreement? And the answer is no. It's because even if the guys in the room at the COPs, COP26, COP25, and we went to a bunch of them, even if they agree, they have to go back to their home country and get the country to move. And they generally don't have that kind of power. Not only that, but it's really hard for 190 countries to agree to something. So I don't say I'm giving up on them, but I do say that I think that the real change in the world is going to happen when we change. And when I say we, I'm talking about the people in the world. So it's not the United Nations, which is a top-down approach. It's the United People, which is a bottom-up approach. We need both. We need the bottom-up approach and the top-down approach, and then we get somewhere. So we thought about how can we get the bottom-up approach? Well, one thing is people really don't have a good, insight into the products and the services that they buy. They don't know how good or bad they are for the environment. And this is wrong. So we came up with a rating system. And the rating system, the way it works is, you have 5 stars. When you go to Amazon, you have 5 stars. It tells you if you got a bang for your buck. But it doesn't tell you anything about how good this product is for the future of humanity and nature. So we came up with the idea, well, let's come up with another rating system that focuses on how good this product is for the future of humanity and nature. And so in addition to the 5 stars, we will give a product or a service 5 planets. And an example of 5 planets, click, there you go. We mocked a Amazon page, and this is an example of a towel. So it tells you the 5 stars, but below it, you see the 5 planets. And the 5 planets, basically, we have 550 rating agencies that rate companies and products. We collect that data, and we boil it into 5 planets. And if anybody wants to know what the 5 planet means, it's carbon positive, recycling, nature positive, clean environment, fair price, and fair labor conditions. That's all we came up with for now. But it's a way for everyone to know about the products that they're buying. And so the idea is that people can make a better choice. And when people make a better choice, companies have to compete to sell stuff to those people. I can tell you that probably anybody in this room, if they knew that something was a 5 planet instead of a 4 planet, they would buy that before they buy the 4 planet product. So it's already been debuted in Europe, and now we're working our way into the US. But the idea is that the Blue Planet is only going to work on things that have a worldwide impact. I know everybody says act local and make the global change, but we need to have things that are actually going to change everything everywhere. So the next thing, I'm a game designer. You go back in time, I'm a game designer. And whenever I attend a conference and they talk about how are we going to fix climate change, there's always somebody who says, hey, yeah, we should gamify it. And when they say gamify it, everybody looks at me and it's like, oh, there's somebody who knows about gamification. Okay, I get it. Fine, so I took on the gamification of fixing everything. How do I do it? And so here's the thing that happens to me. I get up on stage, give a talk, and people at the end of the talk come up to me and ask me, so what can I do? And I always say, I'm sorry, but I don't know what you can do. I know what I can do. I can get up on stage and talk to you guys and hopefully inspire you to do something. But you have to figure out what it is that you can do and what you will do, and do that. I'm not asking you to do what I want you to do. I want you to do what you want you to do. What do you feel good about? What do you think is the biggest problem in the world? Go fix that. And then I realized that people just don't know where to start, because the problems are so big. And so what we're coming up with is an action app. We call it an action app. It's a list of things to do. And the things to do start real easy. It's like turn off a light switch in a room where there's no people. Pick up a piece of rubbish, put it in the rubbish can. These are really easy actions a 4-year-old can do. Once you've done a whole bunch of them, then you go up a level. This is called role-playing. You go up a level. When you go up a level, we give you bigger things to do. And then you go up another level, and you give you even bigger things to do. Now, how do you make points? You make points by doing something, but the most points you can make is by creating an action, because every time somebody does that action, you also get points. So it's a big competition to see who can come up with the most interesting things to do. So when, so the action app gives, in the meantime, while you're doing the actions, the AI is watching what your choices are. I mean, this is what Amazon does anyway. They figure out what you're going to buy next. And here, what we're going to do is figure out what you're most likely to do next and give you that. So the Action app, it works on a phone. There's more mobile phones in the world than there are people, by the way. So it feels like just about everybody in the world has one. And if that Action app, in the beginning, you collect points, and it's just like a game. But as the actions get bigger, we may, and we're studying this right now, give people coin, like Bitcoin kind of coin, virtual money. So we're incentivizing people to do something. So I just want to finish by saying I'm so glad that Guam is on track, and I want to make sure Guam stays on track, because the price of oil is not going down. You know, we're in a world situation now, and smarter people than us in Germany have decided they're going to go 100% by 2035. That is a huge commitment, and it's a huge job. And why are they doing this? They're doing this because they realize for security reasons, they can't be buying gas from Russia. And so what's going to happen? They're going to be importing, in the meantime, all the countries that have been buying Russian oil are going to be buying oil from other places. So guess what that means for Hawaii and Guam? It means that our oil prices are going to go up. So the time to make the change is now. The time to bite the bullet, if there is even such a thing as a bullet, the time to bite the bullet is now. So Hawaii, everybody says, where are you going to get the money to make this change? Well, frankly speaking, the utility in Hawaii didn't spend any money. All they did was put out RFPs, requests for performance, for renewable energy. A couple of years ago, they did 800 megawatts, and more recently, they did 900 megawatts of renewable energy. If all those projects happen, we'll make it by 2035, no problem, without spending any money. It's just a power purchase agreement with a company that wants to develop wind or solar, and in the case of Hawaii, geothermal. We can totally do this. So I was at COP 26 in last November. Actually, I was almost at COP because I caught COVID on the first day, and I ended up in an Airbnb for 10 days. But I was at COP, and I was thinking, what if the people in the room can't get it done? And what I want to say to those people is, we're doing this anyway, regardless of whether you make it in the room. The world has to change. There's no other choice. And so my slogan is, we are doing this. So I would like everyone in the room to join me and say, we are doing this. We are doing this. I got a minute left. So give you your minute back. So I think we have Q&A? Or did I take that long? It said Q&A.
All right, there you go, ladies and gents. Give it up for Mr. Henk Rogers. We are opening the floor now for Q&A. If anybody has any questions, I will gladly make my way to you to capture those questions. Okay, we've got one all the way in the back. I'm sorry, Senator, I'm going to run. He was a little bit faster.
Hi, Carlos, great talk. I'm from the University of Guam Marine Laboratory. Basically, my question talks about how do you create or how do you plan on creating accountability and pushing for degrowth in Western nations under our current economic structure, i.e. capitalism?
Yeah, so I don't know that we can, we've tried to do the stick approach, by creating rules for companies to work under. But I think what's going to happen is if we have transparency, then the people in those companies themselves are going to want to see the change. For example, Google, when they tried to move into China, and Google has the thing, do no evil, and they were talking about doing censorship for China, the employees revolted, said, no, we're not doing this. And, so capitalism itself, if you just look at the pure capitalism part of it, it's like make money at all cost. Of course, that is not a formula for success for the environment. But people, especially women people, there's more to it than that. So the Blue Planet Alliance, we're always going to make sure that more than half of our board members are women. Because us men, we got us into this, and I have no confidence that we're going to get us out. It just needs to have a feeling that we are here to protect the world and not just use it to make more money. What good is money anyway at the end of the day? You can't die with it. And it's really, you could say it's the source of all evil, but it can also be a source of good. So I think companies themselves will start to have a heart. If you look at a lot of companies in the US, they've committed to become sustainable, and I think that will radiate around the world. So I don't think it's a stick thing. I think it's more of a carrot thing, meaning that customers will not buy your product if you're not environmentally friendly.
Half a day. Thank you so much for being with us today and for this conference. My name is Regine Bisco-Lee, and my question is about the app. I'm really interested if it's available for download. I am a huge fan of Disney's Emoji Blitz. I'm very addicted to that, so I would love to be able to do something that has an action and impact built in.
Right, so we are in alpha. We're not even at beta yet. So what's going to happen is I'm going to release it at a university first, and we're going to test it, probably ASU, the Arizona State University. There is a big, big group there called the Global Institute of Sustainability, and I'm one of the directors. So I will first ask the students to clean up or fix their own campus and maybe in their dormitories or that kind of thing. So I would say that's probably going to take us a few months while we're coming up with summer vacation. But once we've done that testing process, then we start releasing it. Now, the interesting thing about the app is originally it was just going to be a Blue Planet app. But recently I spoke to 800 Rotary presidents in Los Angeles. And I realized, oh my gosh, they're all trying to do good things. And there's so many NGOs that are trying to do good things. So what we're going to do is white label the Action app so that they can get their members to do things. You know, the Sierra Club always sends me emails, can you write your congressperson, whatever. I just never do that. It's just not the kind of thing that I do. I don't have that kind of time. I don't know what to write, and so on and so forth. If they ask me something that I could actually do, then I would be happy to do that. If they had an Action app, and I said, I did this, then they would know that I actually did something. Then something that I could actually do would appear on my to-do list, rather than things that I never do. So I think we're talking about a couple of months. I'm not going to release it unless I know it's working. So I'll keep you posted.